Hello legends and super legends. Welcome to Veloharmony. Getting ready to roll out. It's one of those days where it's starting at about 12C, which is like I think 52, 53 thereabouts. And it's going to end up at 20C by the time we're done with the ride. And the rest of the day will be up to like 22 to 24C. So it's one of those days where I could wear leg warmers, but I'm not going to, because within 2 hours or so, it will be above 60. And since my legs do the work, all I did was I put embrocation on them. It's just less stuff to carry, but I definitely need the arm warmers because your arms will feel colder in a temperature like this since they're not really working. And we're gonna go ahead and meet Alan, and we're wearing a team kit today. So everything's coming together. So I hope you guys get a chance to get some Ks in. If not today, tomorrow. Good morning, legends and super legends. Heading out. I've got a package in the back of my jersey, basically under my jersey, between my jersey and my base layer for Alan. Alan's buying all his arm warmer, leg warmers, all the gloves that we have in his size for this kit. So it's a nice crispy morning. It's gonna be sunny for a change. I got my shades on the back of my neck. So I'm not even putting on the light. I mean, look at this day. It's beautiful.
Listen to the birds.
Look at this day.
The birds are chirping. They're singing.
So I haven't seen one of these in a while. I was going to do my yard yesterday, and the mower been sitting all winter. And you know, spring is 2 weeks away, but all the plants are waking up, the grass getting green. So the mower would not start. I found that these geniuses put something called a solenoid that regulates the fuel. It's called a fuel solenoid. And all its job is, if you shut the mower down at high idle, it prevents backfire. So, I mean, who shuts a mower down at high idle? So, it's not necessary, but I was able to source the part on eBay. But there's a workaround because I'm not waiting for it to get here because I need to cut the yard sometime next week. So I was able to trim and do some other stuff, keep the yard looking decent. So I'm going to modify the fuel solenoid, being the engineer that I am. It's a little valve that just pops up when you crank the engine to let fuel in, and then it shuts off the fuel when you turn the motor off, so there's no vacuum if you're running at a high idle as you shut it off. Prevents, they call it after fire, more like backfire. Anyway, all you gotta do is cut that needle off, screw it back in, it's ready to go. It was a pain in the butt to diagnose though, like everything else. Symptoms are similar to other fuel supply issues. But enough about mowers. It's time to get on and ride. Look at this day. It's beautiful, the birds are singing. They know something. I'm gonna go ahead and synchronize my computer. There we go. Just powered on. That's my Garmin. Still not connected to the satellite yet. I don't see any grade or heading. But I see speed. Oh, that's because I got a speed. I got the speed sensor on the wheel. I had used it on the trainer, and I left the speed sensor there. The speed sensor overrides the numbers you get from the satellite when it's on there. So once it syncs, it should be good. There's somebody who's overdressed on that side. I don't know if this will pick him up.
There's a rider across the way where the arrow is. It's in full tights and everything.
It's all about the details.
So he'll be fine early because it's 10C now, but within an hour and a half, he'll get too hot because it's supposed to be warm, especially with the tights. It's always hard to gauge those things on days like these where you're kind of right on the cusp with temperature-wise, so it's hard to call sometimes.
As the GPS finally syncing, I see my heading now, it says south, and then I have grade. So the satellite is finally being picked up by this head unit. Those are the things that allows the overlay to work. So I learned over time to pay particular attention to that sync. Once that happens, that's what I have to do before I hand things over to Paul when he wants this camera. And at first I wouldn't do that, and then we'd have no elapsed time and all that kind of stuff. Timer wouldn't work. So the software is free, but it's not supported, the Garmin Verb. But it works great if you figure it out, once you figure it out. Boys are already there. Good morning. How you guys doing? Good morning. How you doing?
How are you?
All right.
I got your package.
Where's the warmers, man? I'm cold.
I got your package.
It's actually good. I took mine off. I thought I was going to be.
Oh, so that's the warmer.
Everything is in there. Everything's in there. Your leg warmers, arm warmers, the 2 sets of gloves. So here, hold this, Paul.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's gonna be until 10 something before it breaks.
You know, they have a marathon going on.
I'm having slight
In the
shifting
Woodlands?
issues.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Alan's having trouble with his shifting, and Paul just mentioned that there's a marathon going on in Woodlands where we usually ride. So we're gonna have to navigate that. So that's this arm warmer. Alan bought the whole shebang, everything we're selling. So,
You got to put these, man.
so I told him he got to take off his gloves and put on. Then he starts talking about his shorts.
Yeah, man. I know, but look, I told Paul I'm half Velo.
Oh, what happened to your shorts?
Well, then I forgot to wash.
Oh, okay.
There was
he
a
says-
separate bins out there or something.
Yeah.
I told
Put
him.
those in there. Put that
Yeah, he
in
said
there.
his wife didn't get around to washing his shorts. You know, she's dealing with the kids and all of that.
Our
Just
washing
didn't.
machine doesn't stop, man. 24 hours a day.
Oh, real? Well, that's kids, man.
Kids.
Yeah,
Yeah, same thing in our house.
yeah.
Oh, in fact, I basically fired Melissa from washing my clothes years ago because it just takes so long for her to get to it. So I do my own. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I told you that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have this thing going, do you?
Oh, yeah.
Paul's surprised I got the camera going. Those are the Rafa socks I got to try, and I love them. The
Yeah.
Pro Team socks that match our jersey. They just got them out this year.
Here. Let me check your shift.
So I'm going to check Alan's shifting. He said his shifting is hesitating in one gear.
So you got the short ones in there too. I use those on hot days.
So the long one?
Yeah, those
Yeah.
are the long. Is this
The long ones goes this
like
far.
This is the long. It's not very long. It comes up here.
That's
Yeah. It's aerodynamic. It's for summer too, but it's just more aero. Some team.
Yeah, it just if you're this way. and
It's
you
usually
wanna-
one gear.
If you want to check out.
Yeah, this is usually one gear. Sometimes you bump your barrel adjuster. Doesn't take
Paul
much.
had the same issue.
Or you put a different wheel in there with a different dish. So all I do is I basically spin the wheel and then I shift, and it's moving. Now spin it again. That's how you one-handedly
I'll
test
tell
it.
you what, when I worked on this bike, I told Paul, I said, now he's got what he needs because it's shifting, man.
Yeah, his shifting is smooth once he got the Dura-Ace crankset.
How do you put the tag? Like the tag to the back side, or
No, the on the side. So
kind of like that? Okay.
yeah, so the seam is gonna be inside your elbow.
Yeah, there
So
you
that,
go.
and then look at the Veloharmony, it needs to be readable. The V needs to be facing Paul. Yeah.
Yeah,
got it in the
there
right
you
side. Well, the first time I put it on camera, I had them switch. and what's his name? That guy caught it in the Baltic coast. Simon Moses.
Oh,
He
yeah?
caught it. He said, I see that you switched it back because during the intro it was wrong and during the ride it was correct. He said, I see that you switched it back.
Ah,
Yeah, Simon Moses does not miss much.
what I like about the texture of those arm warmers and also the leg warmer, even when it gets hot, this set works.
It works. Yeah, you don't get too
Yeah.
hot. You'll see. So until like 10:30 or so before you would think about taking it, it's very nice. That's why I
Yeah.
put them on. It's 50 something right now.
The
Yeah.
UMC guys are talking to.
So Santini,
Yeah,
there
they're-
are two
they're
because it's the same kind of money.
Yeah,
It's the same kind of money we
talking
spend.
to Christians.
Oh yeah.
So initially,
Christian will hook
they
them
were
up.
asking me, you want one? I'm like, yeah, triple X, and then they changed because Steve wanted like a 6XL or something.
No. He doesn't. Why would he
You
need?
gotta be kidding me.
It stretches. Yeah. He's so this is your XXL. So what you do is just twist it like that. As long as it's seam. Yeah, and then you. That's good. It does not
Yeah.
move.
Yeah,
That's not
that's
move.
like
Once
a
you
zone.
finish, you just pull your bike up and we'll get this thing. This bike is so light.
Yeah.
You got water in here. It didn't seem like you even had water in here.
Oh yeah.
Show me what these.
That's
Oh,
the
his
tool.
tool. That's his
Yeah.
toolkit.
He has a
So
tools
what do you
back
have
there.
in here?
Food.
You got food in there?
Oh, there's like a tube and the key for
So
the
this
car.
is another toolkit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm trying to take less stuff from my back.
Yeah, I mean, I just. So with this bag, so you could put what's in here and here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just wonder why you got both of them. Let me close this before you lose something.
It's laziness. I don't feel like it's something.
Because as it gets warmer, you're gonna need 2 bottles.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, so that's what I was asking.
Oh, absolutely.
I have one of these, but I have a short one.
Yeah.
It's shorter. I don't use it much because most of the time I take 2.
Yeah.
Okay, so lift. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna lift the bike. I want you to shift because now it's in the middle. So just keep shifting. The other way, easy gear, because that's why you were saying
Going.
it's sticking. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's go down. When we go up now, it's supposed to go up, it's supposed to stick.
No, it's not gonna stick because I just adjusted it before you tested it. That's why I want you to test
Oh,
it.
that's good. That's it.
So what happens is this: if something bumps this little guy on the Shimano, it moves very easily. Paul has the same issue sometimes. It doesn't take much for that barrel adjust to the move. Yeah, so a lot of times if you're gonna lean it on anything, I would err on the side of either leaning it on this side, you know what I mean? Or make sure the tire touches whatever you lean it on. It doesn't take much, it happens. It's just, that's the same thing I did that day on the highway. Remember you had the bike one day with UMC?
Yeah.
And you were having, that's the same thing. Yeah, that's the same thing.
Well, how about some day with no rain, man?
That's what I did on the intro. I said, man, look at this day. We finally got a day. Yeah.
That's why I got excited, man. I got outside and said, no rain! Come on! Start taking the clothes off. Yeah, man. It's nice.
So what route you guys want to do today?
It,
What about
we're
you?
good.
There's a Woodlands Marathon today.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the marathon usually it has certain roads closed. Do they?
I saw a sign by Flint Ridge, just about there. they have a sign there. I don't know if they're gonna come that far.
It might be
But-
cool to go there anyway, film
Okay.
it for the guys.
Okay.
If we have to deviate, you know, we
Yeah,
can,
that's what
we
I'm
know the
thinking.
area.
Okay.
We can go through the Woodlands
Okay.
and then maybe hit Tomball. What do you think?
Okay, that's
You
fine.
guys see me adjusting my helmet it's because I'm wearing a hat. I had to.
Oh yeah, the pollen. Just this moment of riding here. The
Yeah.
pollen on my computer. Yeah. So
Man,
yeah,
I'm
where
looking
it's
for.
out.
If
allergies.
if you hear about anything that can cover the whole entire truck, let me know. Because mine is all shiny and I'm trying to cover it
Oh,
up.
please, you're gonna have to keep it inside, my brother, because every car, that's what I'm talking about. It doesn't
Sure.
get much.
Even inside the garage,
Yeah,
man.
you'll keep it inside the garage. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
But right now, all the trees are blooming. Yeah, man, it's like I was ready to do my yard yesterday,
Yeah.
and the lawnmower was not start. So,
Why not?
well, there's something that have these geniuses put something called a fuel solenoid on the lawnmower. It didn't used to be that on the old.
So I'll go ahead and explain to Alan what's going on with the lawnmower. I actually bought that lawnmower from Alan several years ago, and it's been bomb-proof. The John Deere LA115. It's kind of an entry-level model, but it works great for my yard. It's better than a push mower because I have a big yard, and so that's what we're talking about. What Paul was mentioning about covering his truck, he has a truck like Alan's, and it's a different color. And so with the pollen now, just riding from the house, my computer was covered with pollen. And that's what we're talking about. And he, you know, once you leave your car outside, even to go in a shopping center this time of year, you come outside, it's green, you know, because everything's blooming. That's what he was saying. If Alan knows about a cover, because, you know, Alan knows about cars. I just told him, man, you're going to have to put that bad boy inside if you're worried about it. So that's what we're talking about. So we're riding down here, you know, just starting, of course. And in a short while, you will see there's a lady coming up. She's walking towards us. And she's pretty much dressed like it's probably, in my opinion, 4C. And we're, you know, it's not. It's warm. Like it says 12C. So I bug her. You'll see right here, I freeze the picture. She's wearing a hood and everything. And it's not that cold. So I told her it's not that cold. I like messing with people. But that's the Rafa socks I was talking about. I mean, it just matches the kit. We've been looking for orange socks to match, and then Rafa just came out after that sale ended, maybe a month ago, with the new lines. They're adding a lot of orange in the Pro Team line, and orange is my favorite color, bar none. And so they were like $20 at regular price. The Pro Team regular socks, they're called. It's not the short, it's not the super long. I like the regular because the perfect length that I prefer. They just look best. And so that's the regular. It's $20, regular price. I just grabbed it because I wanted to try it quickly, and it worked. So they're keepers. You go, we're going to get socks from Santini, but too much red tape. You got to buy so many blank copies. They wanted us to buy like, I think, I don't know if it was 1,000 or something. It was just an obscene amount of socks, and it's just going to take forever to move them. So we didn't bother, and I'm glad that we didn't. So it's good to find that the Pro Team color orange is working with the kit perfectly. As you can see, the camera is distorting the color right here. As the sun hits it, it will get more realistic. It's closer to the arm. It's a cross between the arm and the back, but it just works. So I like the fact that it will match because of how he did the jersey on the back with the varying shades of red to orange. And you can see how they work. And it's great with black shoes. You know, they'll probably look funky with orange, but I'm sure I'll try it because I really like them. So Paul got a copy of that also. We've got that in black as well. Pro Team in black and then white because this jersey will go with white. When I do white, I like to do white shoes because I've got an old pair of white shoes. So those are the things that I spend the time on getting my kit together. I do that like Thursday or Friday. I hang everything up. I put the outfit in front so it's ready to go. So I don't think about it in the morning. And I check to make sure it works well with the shoe and all of that. I like to look the business. That's just me. And I think it's just nice. So when we're out there, you'll see later. I mean, we're just and when we get out there in the Woodlands, they're having a marathon. And we get like red carpet treatment. They're holding up cars and they let us through. And so it's like great to be on a bicycle today. So, I mean, look at this weather. And so we're rolling along here, just starting the ride, chatting. That's the beauty of our sport. You know, just easing into it at a gruppetto pace. And of course my cadence is up. This is the way I prefer to warm up. It's a lot easier on the joints, and it's just my style. I just ride with a higher cadence, you know, generally. I mean, I can handle lower cadences, but to warm up, I like to keep my legs moving. And you can see Paul got a good shot there. You can see how I'm just floating on the pedals. And it comes from, I mean, I stress fit again. And you see I'm shifting to the big chainring now. I was on the little chainring. And I shifted up. And you can see not much changed, you know? So I shift up and then I shift to easier gears in the back to get to the same ratio. I was in like a 62-inch gear, which is the 3917. So I shifted on the big chainring and then shifted lower in the back to get into the 5323. That's what I'm in right now.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And I stood right there, just to kind of change the position as we got through. And those arm warmers, we were able to wear them well into the 70s when the ride ended, and I didn't need to take them off. I haven't come across another pair that I was able to do that with. So up till 21C, the arm warmers were fine. And we did have the wind on the way back, maybe that played a factor, but I'm just pleased with the leggings and the arm warmers from Santini.
Okay.
You can tolerate them in higher temperatures. Now I see why Paul was able to wear those leggings last week, because we're in similar temperatures when it was raining.
Yeah.
He knows the roads.
Okay.
So we're right here, we're chatting about the bike barn.
Yeah. They don't do much, man.
The bike barn, we used to visit them from time to time, but they don't come this far north, and they do like an hour and a half. For a Saturday, for us, that's sacrilege, because Saturday is when we can ride. The only way we're going to ride that short if we have a big ride on Sunday, because I will still ride, but I won't ride as long or as hard, just to keep my body ready for the next day. And so that's why we haven't visited them. That's what we're talking about. So I roll up to Alan here and sit behind him. And besides the fact that the orange really works with the kit, look at the visibility. As your legs are moving, it's almost like having lights on your ankles, because that's what the drivers see. And that's the reason why I like the contrast. And even the bands around the leg of the shorts is a point of visibility. Then you can see those reflectors on the side of the shorts. Those are the things that the design points in this outfit when he sent, that's what caught my eye. Besides, the design is classic, you don't get tired of it. Because some of the other choices, we had 3 choices, some of them look like hot chili peppers and stuff like that. I'm just not into that. I don't like super flashy stuff. I like classic designs, and so this just hit the spot. We're going through the golf course here, and what I've done is I've worked more. Did another film school class, and I worked more on working on the wind decibel. I went outside during the week, checked on what the wind decibel level was. I did my own recording, came back in and played around. So I'm getting it to sound even better each day as I improve it. And that's what you're hearing here. And right here, I'm just spinning. So I roll to the front. I'm in a lower gear than Alan. Alan's standing, so he shifted up a cog or so. And so what you're hearing right now is very close to what we heard at this time. There weren't a whole lot of wind at this point. Coming back, we ran into it. But that's something I will continually focus on working on. I use different microphones when I'm testing to get the decibel level right. And this is very close to what we're experiencing. Now let them know the intersection is clear and we're rolling west. And look at that sunshine. Week 7, we got a dry Saturday. It's usually the other way around. You go for months without rain, especially in the summer. It's like a desert out here. So look at my sock. The orange has changed. It's not as red. So the camera's interpretation with the sunlight, it's more realistic here. That's the orange. And you can see it's closer to the armband on the jersey. That's what I like about it. And it's closer to the band on the pants also. That's the real color of the orange right there. The camera's interpretation here is spot on. So Alan rose to the front, I just slipped behind him. Gotta always be watching your riding partner. So as he went by, I just slipped over and got behind him. So I'm sitting on Alan's right because whatever wind that's out here, it's swirling around a little bit. And so when I have the space, I sit on the right and just, take advantage of the draft. But Alan moves when he's riding. He will move right when he senses there's a car coming, and you can see that car was coming, so he moved to the right. Now he's back, so I'm just sitting there. Now you look at my cadence, and not that any particular cadence is better than others, because everybody's different. If you find that you like to ride at 80, 85, that's fine, but you still must prepare your body to be able to spin faster than what you like, because that's like a car that can only do 3,000 RPMs. You want the car to be able to do 6,000 RPMs if it's accelerating. It's the same thing with your legs. So if you like 80 to 85, that's great. But from time to time, train higher than that, and then from time to time, train lower than that. That's how you build your strength, so that you can be able to be versatile and respond to whatever you encounter, especially when you do group rides. Right here, I'm spinning a bit excessively. 120 is fast, but I'm doing that to speed up my warm-up. I'm trying to get my engine going. That's why I'm doing that. It's not a very efficient cadence necessarily. If I'm trying to maintain things forever, I stay close to 100, maybe 105 on a flat road. In the hills, I drop those cadences. So I just wanted to kind of specify that. So don't just ride at the cadence you like. I like 95 to 105, but I ride under that or above that, depending on what's going on. Because sometimes a low cadence just feels great if you're struggling, and then you can use your strength to maintain the speed. And then sometimes high cadence feels great if you're trying to accelerate to close up a gap. So that's why I always suggest to people, regardless of what you like, train them. Consistent with the video I made about interval training, the explanation, think about it this way. You could always surprise your body that you like 80 to 85, and then you throw 105 at it for, say, 30 seconds. Or you go to 60 RPMs in a big gear for 30 seconds. It surprises your body and it stresses your body, so you will improve. And it gives you that versatility, so you'll be a more dynamic rider. That's the way to do it. Don't do one thing all the time. Mix it up. You guys that have been watching some of the rides in the winter, I don't spin all the time. There were rides in the winter where I was working on strength, and I kept the cadence low. But on a flat road, it's good to keep your cadence high, especially if you're riding with riders that are changing the speed, because then you can accelerate without straining your muscles too much. So that's it. So right now I'm just warming up, loosening up. I'm feeling good, so just trying to get my legs to wake up and get ready for the ride to come. And if you're having trouble spinning, revisit your fit. If it doesn't feel good, or your shorts are pinching you or whatever, revisit your fit. When your bike fits you, you'll be able to pedal at any cadence the condition requires, especially after you've prepared. But if you're finding that you're trying to do higher cadences and you just can't reach the pedals, or it just doesn't feel right, revisit your fit. Your fit makes it so much easier. And when you're going hard, try to unload your upper body. You should not be clenching your muscles or tensing. Keep your upper body relaxed. It does not help you go faster. Your legs do the work. So by keeping your upper body relaxed, you take all the energy and put it in pedaling the bicycle. So we're rolling through here. We're going into the wind. This day we had a northeasterly flow. So we're going directly into the wind. And this is a false flat. So 29 kilometers an hour is a bit on the upside for a warm-up. But you can see we're at the 29-minute mark. And all I'm trying to do is keep the effort similar to what Alan was doing when he was at the front. Normally you want to warm up in zone 2. 1 to 2 is good for warm up. Right now I'm approaching the top of zone 3 here, bottom of zone 4. But because it's a climb, I'm just riding it. In fact, at the end of this climb, Alan even mentioned, man, I didn't know that this was much of a climb. It didn't seem that way. And I told him, yeah, it's around 2%. And with the wind, you know, it was significant. It's a good way to get into the ride. So I'm keeping it steady. I'm in a moderate gear. I'm keeping my cadence in the low 90s, upper 80s, low 90s. Right here, it's the grades kicking in and my cadence is dropping. And we're warming up, so I'm not forcing the pace per se. I'm just riding the climb. And you can see my cadence went back up a little bit. It says 1%. It's closer to 2. I think probably around the curve that's coming up here, it gets closer to 2. There's a curve up there before it ends, and I think that's where Alan made the comment that it didn't seem like it was much of a climb. I told him, yeah, it's here. That's what we're talking about here. Right here, it flattens out. That was a 3-way stop sign. I told them it was clear. We didn't just roll through there. The bottom line is nobody's there, no cars there. I just say clear and we keep our momentum going. Now, if we were to see an officer or something, yeah, we'd stop. You know, we don't want to be lectured or get a ticket, you know. The officers are pretty good. If you mess up, they will just chat with you. If you have the right attitude, usually nothing happens, you know. But I'd much rather not get to that point, so we do everything very safely. I mean, there was nothing there, so there's no point. It's like you're in the forest and a tree falls. Nobody hears it. You hear the wind picking up, and I've got the decibel level down, so it just picked up right there as we went down that little slight descent. This is another reason when I'm at the front, I don't go to 35 kilometers an hour right away. Alan's coming through. I'm not sure what we're talking about here, but I slip back behind him. For those of you who are not familiar, later on we get to film Paul because Alan even gets to try the camera for the first time. We keep Paul in last position for several reasons. So he gets to film at least 2 riders. The second reason, actually, I think is more important is the fact that he rarely drafts perfectly unless we really heat up the pace. So he's always framing the shots. So he's fighting the wind. The camera is about 440 grams or something like that, I think, or 400 grams. It's close to a pound. So he's dealing with that. And the weight is distributed. It's not like dead weight. They did it in a way to where it doesn't feel clunky. But you can see right here, he's not perfectly drafting. He's trying to make sure he doesn't just film me. So he'll move a little to the left from time to time to catch the rider in the front. You hear the wind picking up. So he'll go left, right, whatever. He's not worried about being perfect in the draft. And so with all the stuff that he's doing, he's working pretty close to the person that's pulling. You know, a little less, but he's working. And so what we do is we do most of the pulling wherever possible so that he can use his energy to film and position himself wherever he deems is best to get the best shot. He's giving us a view. There's a couple of cars coming behind. It's just a beautiful morning. Look at that sunshine peeking between the trees there. Just fair morning. So we're going into the wind from the north on our left and the east directly in front of us because we're headed east right now. For some reason, I never got the meters to work. It says minus 69 meters. We're not minus 69 meters. So something happened on this particular overlay on this ride. It just never registered the correct meters. Because we covered probably almost 200 and some meters overall. That's why we go north. Other parts of town is just flat. North is more interesting. That's the reason I moved out here on this side of town. You hear the wind. And I've been working on it, and that's how it sounded to us. So, you know, we were battling it. It gives you a good idea. The camera's catching the wind because Paul turned it to the side. That's why you heard that. Letting down a little turn. So shortly through here, and then we get to what I call the open road. So for me, I'm in, it says zone 3, feels like zone 2 to me, but it's a more intense warm-up than we normally do, which is perfect for this time of year with notching everything up. So I rolled through, I checked the intersection. I think there's a car coming. I think we end up stopping. Yeah, even though we're stopping. So when you're in front, you're not just watching for you. So even though I could have gone, the other guys would not have been able to make it safely. And you know, you don't want to do that and annoy the other road users. It's just not cool. So your decision should be based on the last person in the group. Is there enough room for that person to make it when you come to intersections? Plus, it's a stop sign. So that driver is going to look favorably on the next group of cyclists that he or she comes across. So we're rolling here into the wind. We're headed east, kind of northeast. But more east right now than north. So what Alan was asking Paul there was that if you want me to handle the camera, you can come through and I'll film you. Because normally we don't get the opportunity to have a third person that wants to handle the camera. Because it takes some getting used to. And so I heard that exchange. And later on the ride, we got a chance for Alan to do some filming, which was great. So we got a chance to get Paul on camera. So right here, I continue to pull and keeping the effort the same. Really, we're at the top of zone 3, thereabouts. You know, but the ride has begun in earnest. This part of the ride, I like to kind of pick it up a little bit because the road's kind of narrow so that we can get through here real quickly. Paul's coming around to get a shot. This is what I talk about. So he's getting shots, he's doing stuff, so he's expending some energy as opposed to just sitting in like you normally would have other riders do that were not filming. I let him sit up there for a bit. I don't know if I come around or Alan does. Yeah, there, yeah. Once I sense that the speed dropped a little bit, I come around quickly so that he can get back in the draft and continue filming. And this way we can get pictures front, back, side. The gimbal gives us that versatility instead of attaching the camera to the front of the bike with such a narrow field of vision. This is a section here that's narrow, so I basically use more of the road to discourage any cars that might want to pass. And you can hear the wind picking up as we go down this little descent. And it levels off. As the morning goes on, the wind picks up more and more. To where on the return, we get to really battle the wind. So we get out of the narrow section here, and I drift a little more to the right. There's a second section here that narrows, and then I will move back over. I use my position to discourage drivers from passing us in our lane when it's too narrow for them to fit safely. Like right here, you see, the lane is just too small. At most, it's 6 feet. So you can see where I am. And it's just a short stretch, so they can wait. But this is safer than letting them try to pass in this lane. So I do that even when I ride solo. I position myself like that in these situations. And once we get through the turn circle here, we can just use the right lane. I place myself to the left because the wind is coming from the left and in our face. You don't have to use the whole road to do that unless there's a lot of you guys in the group and you have 2 lanes like we do. I stay in the same gear and just keep my cadence up. Alan's in the bigger gear, stretching his legs. Paul says car back. I wait as these guys go back, and then I look behind. I think Alan tells me, yeah, it's clear. So we get in the left lane. We're going to be turning at the intersection to head north into the Woodlands. We're expecting a parade in the Woodlands because Paul had seen the sign that they posted. I was out here, this light went yellow, but we made it. I was out here on Thursday running errands, and I did not see the sign. So they must have put it there either later Thursday or probably after Thursday. Because they put up a kind of like a digital billboard that lets people know that there's going to be delays. So people can make other choices when the weekend comes around. Because they're having a marathon. So I get in on Alan's wheel here. We're going directly into the wind, and it's coming from the right. So you see I'm a little to his left. You always have to keep searching for where you think the draft is. And you use it when you can. I don't depend on the draft, which is why I train consistently, but I use it when I have it. I take a drink here. I'm only using the electrolytes in my bottles because the weather's still kind of cool. I don't get the pure water until it gets very hot. Then I have 1 bottle of water and 1 bottle with electrolytes. So you can see I'm in the draft and my heart rate is about the same as it was when I was at the front at a slightly lower speed. So because of the draft, even though the speeds are up, I'm saving energy. You can hear the wind. We're going directly into the wind. That is why the effort is higher, the speeds are higher, but because I'm drafting well, I'm keeping my energy down. That's the benefit of the draft. The draft works. So whenever you ride with people, you guys need to work on drafting. You need to place yourself properly where possible so that people can draft off of you. That way, the people in the back will be fresh when they come to the front. And so you all can work together. I'm talking about in group rides. In competition, other than your teammates, you're not going to make it easy for the people you're competing against. But if you are in a breakaway, you do have to work in the break because several riders can stay away easier than one rider versus a whole group. So if this were a breakaway, you work with the rider whether they're your teammate or not. You guys share the work, because if there's two of you off the front, second place is better than sprinting for a place that you might not get. Paul just mentioned that there's a sign that was placed here to alert drivers that there might be delays. We're entering the Woodlands. There's a sign on the left right there blinking in the middle of the road. It says Saturday 3-3 expect delays. And sure enough, they've stopped all the traffic. And I'll just watch, you'll watch and see how we navigate here. We got drivers on the shoulder. They can't go anywhere, so some of them just doing crazy stuff. And I don't want to stop, so I'm going to go around this truck. I think I'll go in the grass. Alan goes to the left. We're just getting around him. I'm not sure why he's sitting here. There's nowhere to go. So we get around him because we want to get up there because we're going left at the corner. And I'm kind of hoping that they'll let us through, because bicycles have privileges when these races are going on. So we roll up here, and I think further up, this lane is blocked by some lady that's parked in there. I'm not sure why. There is literally nowhere to go. They've stopped the traffic. The road is closed because the riders are going from right to left across this intersection. They are not allowing anybody to go through.
Man. Yeah.
So these cars were trying to use the shoulder, didn't realize that there's nowhere to go. They're not allowing anybody to go through nor left. So right here, I tell them, let's go to the left lane. The left lane begins. The lady apologizes, and I told her it was okay. So we take the left lane here. I said, let's go up there and talk to those guys and see. Because the cars are not being allowed to go straight or left. They're just stopped. You can see the runners going across the intersection. So we go up there, we talk. I asked this guy in the pickup truck, because the guy had just instructed him that he could not go through. Told him to turn around. I was asking him. So he told me, the guy told him to go back. And so once they saw us, they said, oh, we can go when there's a gap.
Go straight? Okay. Okay. He said the next gap.
So we have privileges. We woke up in an alternate universe today. No cars. No cars allowed. So we look for a gap and then we sneak through on the other side of the road. So we don't have to deal with the riders. And I think I end up using the same side. And then later, and then as we go through, I turn right. Yeah. So we're on the same side here, but then we go through this median and then we turn right. 26 miles. The only way I'm going to be running 26 miles, somebody's got to be chasing me. So I give them credit. 26.2, I believe. That's more than 40 kilometers. That's a lot of running. It was a great turnout for this run. Just the numbers of people, and you will see that throughout this section of the ride, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
I moved over to chat with Alan. I think there's a car. Oh, there's a car behind. Yeah, we didn't know. And, you know, some people that live inside where the blockade was can get through up in this lane, because this lane is for traffic. So we moved over to let that car by.
What? Yeah. People at work were giving me the information about this the whole week.
Yeah, Paul works at United. Said that his co-workers had been informing him about this marathon all week, but they know it's in his neighborhood. You know, they know he lives close to it, and they know he rides. And he's always out there. Just the large number of people that are out here was very impressive to see. These are the very people we pass when it's wet. They're running in opposite directions, but just to see them in large numbers like this. And that's a rest stop on the left. Alan's pointing to somebody, and somebody's on the right. It's the rest stop. There's a bike on the right, somebody parked. So some of the people that work in the race are probably using their mountain bikes to get around. So we're just riding this climb. We're not riding it as hard as we usually do, but we're not crawling up either, because it's about 4% at the steepest pitch. It's short, but you feel it. So Alan goes to the front as we finish the climb, and I just want to keep my legs moving, so I think I'll go past him in a little bit. Still keeping our eyes peeled for runners and spectators and other things. The road's not super clear, but we're just making sure everything's cool as we go by. So I just keep the effort going. We're on a slight descent here before we get to the next roller up there. But it's really cool. We're using the whole road. There's not that many cars because of that blockade, of course. I mean, this road is never super busy, but it was just a nice change. So Alan's riding a slightly bigger gear out of the saddle. I'm probably in a 53.23 or 53.21. I think it's probably 53.21. And I just continue to go. Even after we crest the climb, I'm just riding the hills steadily. That's the way I like to ride rollers. I don't like to coast. You know, it's not like a mountain where you've been climbing for 30 minutes and you use the descent to, you know, gather yourself, take a drink or whatever. These rollers, you want to treat them like flat roads with bumps. That's the way I ride them. So I really watch my gearing.
Car back.
So there's a car back, and so what I decided to do is let him wait. I motioned for him to wait, because we're turning right. There's an officer in the middle of the road. I didn't want this guy to try to sneak by. And since we're turning anyway, that way he could just wait. He wasn't super close on us. So it all worked out. I think he was going straight. And I pointed out that van to Alan because it looked like it was the driver was trying to move. I thought the van was trying to do a U-turn, the one we just passed. So I told Alan to be careful as he went by that van. That's what I'm telling him. I said, I thought we were going to turn. But he said he had seen the van. He was watching them. And I cannot stress enough that when you're riding out on the road, you have to just pay attention. I see riders with headphones on. It's not that common, but I always wonder, why take the chance? You need to be watching everything. You don't want to be surprised. I mean, we look for dogs, and you will see later in this ride how we deal with dogs that are, you know, blocking our path and so on.
Yeah, man.
Fucking Robocop is saying everything the sidebar hears is evidence. The Robocop. I was up late one night. That was the only thing on TV. I
Yeah.
think it was Robocop 2 or 3. Oh.
Yeah.
So everything the sidebar hears is considered evidence. You shouldn't have talked to him. You shouldn't have involved me. I said, look, dick, I don't have time for this. I always root for the bad guys.
I'm not sure how I got into talking about RoboCop.
Yeah, I was out at Market Street
Yeah.
Thursday. That's why I picked up the iPad. They put that out on Friday, late Thursday.
Yeah. Remember that one day they were doing the
Right here, the turn
was
around
right
here.
here.
I don't know which ride that was.
Yeah, that
Not-
was
It's the marathon.
no, that was a triathlon.
Triathlon. Okay.
Ironman, yeah.
Yeah, they had a U-turn right here.
Yeah, right at this intersection on the right where Ellen is, they used that for the Ironman, which is coming up in April. So last April, that was the U-turn on the bike portion, part of it.
Yeah.
I know it's time to do the yard.
That's your sign, huh?
My sign. When this starts moving, some future, we got to never be able to move.
Yeah.
We're talking about a plum tree that I have by the bike room.
Leaves are coming out.
It starts blooming, and that lets me know that spring is here. It's time to start doing the yard. That's what I'm telling the boys. It hasn't borne any fruit because some of these trees need to cross-pollinate, and we only got a single tree. But it blooms every time spring is coming. Is the first thing to get leaves.
Oh, they're blown.
So they blocked the road up here because the marathon is looping throughout the Woodlands, and you can see there's a blockade to keep cars from going to the next street.
Cars, I think.
And we're going to just get through the barriers. Another privilege of being on a bicycle. We can fit through. People are walking down there. And so we just rode through. I think these people walking with a dog, I believe. Yeah, I think so. Maybe not. I know I saw a dog. He looked really happy, and I made a comment about it. It must be this group down here. Yeah, there he is. Yeah. I remember there was a dog. He was very happy. He was a happy looking dog.
Oh, so this is why they turn.
So they're turning to go east from the other road that they were on, and we were on with them earlier. And they're looping. They're going to go east, and then they're going to go north again. Because we'll see them again.
Yeah.
So we have to wait
man,
here
that's
because
this is our spot, man.
that's where we had the chain sitting, and that's where the boys from California had the flat Jose.
The chain. The chain stuff. Yeah. The chain stuff.
So you can see this entire side of the eastern part of the boulevard is blocked for running. The westerly direction on that side has been turned into east and west lanes instead of just westerly lanes. So you got two-sided traffic across the highway where usually is one. This is one of the vehicles on our left for the people that are actually working the race. They got flashing lights on it. That's what Paul is thinking. How did this guy get in there? So we're waiting for a gap in the runners, and then we're going to sneak through because we're headed north. And this is dense. There's not a whole lot of gaps in this section. I'm messing with a little kid on the right there. They got a sign.
Okay, there's a little gap here.
Yeah, let's sneak behind this park.
So this is a two-way on this side that used to be just a westerly flow. But the officer tells us we can go through. Another privilege of being on a bicycle. After those cars go, he says we can go. So we thank him and we roll. So we won't have to deal with them for several miles.
That's the beauty of a bike, man.
So I was telling the boys that I expected to see more riders out here on a beautiful day like this. But so at this point we resumed riding, and I gave the camera to Alan shortly because he's been wanting to help with the filming.
What do I need to do?
Nothing.
Just hold it straight
Just hold
like
it.
that?
No, it will keep itself straight. Just hold it. The gimbal
Okay.
keeps it adjusted. Just hold
Got
the
it.
handle.
All right. Get both you guys up.
So Alan has the camera. I suggested that he put it in his left hand. That's what he's doing. And so in a little bit, we come to an intersection, and there's a lady sitting there. You see the car in front of us? He stops. She's there. She has the right of way. She doesn't go. He's gone. She's still there. So I have to tell her to go. I mean, come
All
on.
right, man. We got that on film. Watch out.
That is just amazing. I mean, it's funny how often that happens. She was not paying attention. I mean, she was there before even that car that got there. Sitting at an intersection, not paying attention. She should have just stayed home. She wasn't driving. That's the crap we got to deal with. Whether you're in your car or on your bike or motorcycle or whatever, that's what you got to deal with. People on the roads not paying attention. It's amazing how often we see that. You know? That's why we put these lights on our bikes, flashing all over, just to get their attention. You know? Oh man. Anyway. So we get back into the business of riding. And since Alan is graciously filming us, we rolled through the Woodlands here. This road is a grade, you can see it. It's going up the whole time. Regardless of what it registers, you feel it. The guy parked on the side of the road here. Paul's warning us. We'll move far enough away just in case he uses his doors. We're not near him. That's what you want to do. Never pass too close to a parked car unless you can see that it's completely empty. You can see into the car. When there's a doubt, just give enough room for the door. So Alan filming us from the side here. You see he's holding the camera, you see his shadow. You hear the birds singing. The birds are excited. Spring is in the air. So we're at the bottom of zone 4 here. We come to this intersection. I think it's a short wait. It's not too long.
Come back.
There's a car behind us, so I'll just queue up after the intersection. So if he's going straight, he can pass. This is a 4-way stop, a check. We go through, it's clear. Alan filming us from an angle. That looks really good. The gimbal is very easy to use. Alan just mentioned that, you know, when you're not used to carrying stuff when you're riding, it takes a little getting used to, but the good thing is that since you don't have to worry about framing the shot, since the gimbal does it for you, it's all you have to do is just keep the thing pointed in the right direction. And it makes it a lot easier so you can ride without thinking about it. That's one thing I really like about having that gimbal. So this part of the course begins to go, we're going more southwest, and then there's a grade here again. And I'm keeping my cadence in the 90s because we're fighting the grade and the breeze. So Alan comes to the front to get a shot. I slip behind him. I'm on the hoods. You get a good shot of those gloves, they really pop. So it's our turn, we take the stop. So I wave that driver through. Stand up to get the gear rolling and get back into the rhythm. This is a grade again right here, you feel it. We're in the heart of the Woodlands here. We don't usually film this section of the ride, but this day, because of the runners and everything, we decided to just go ahead and let the camera roll because there was a lot going on in the Woodlands today. I don't think we make this light. If I remember correctly, there it changes. I'm letting them know we're stopping.
Regardless of what happens to your hand, it doesn't shake.
I'm telling Alan about how the gimbal works.
You can go ahead, Alan. Take a second, please.
So Paul takes the camera from Alan shortly after this stop sign. And right here, Alan comes through. Paul has the camera now. I think I reached for a gel, and I ended up getting a package of a gel that the bottom had a hole in it. So when I squeezed it, I got gel spewing out of the top into my mouth and the bottom onto my leg and on the side of my lips. It ended up drying there later. Paul pointed it out at the stop. But my left leg got gel all on it and it dried on it. Or was it my right leg? I think it was my right leg, yeah. But Paul said he had the same problem with the SIS stuff. He ran into just a package that was leaking. At this point, I took the package itself while I'm riding and I wipe off the gel off my leg because I don't want to stop. That's why you see me moving to the side. And then once I use up the gel, I stick it under my pants leg because I did not want to put it in my jersey area because it was a little sticky. Because at the stop, I just took a damp towel and wiped my leg. Got that off. It's a lot better than messing up the stuff in the contents of my pockets or putting it on my side. So it's just a faulty package. But, you know, not all of the gel spilled, so it was good. So at this point, I'm basically making sure that my energy stores are topped off for later in the ride. You can see how that sock matches the band on my arm. That's a color that's been hard to match. So I told the guys that we needed to stop for this stop sign. We did because that officer was coming the opposite way. And so we resumed the ride here. So I had given a gap to Alan. So right here, I rode back up to him. We're in the heart of the Woodlands here. headed west currently, and then we're gonna go southwest. And right around that curve, the road kicks up. See, it said 1%. It's up and down, but it stays up. It's a drag. You can see from the perspective of the camera. Check for traffic and make sure it's clear. I tell Alan to turn in left. He's all the way on the right side of the road. You can see the cones over here. That kind of lets us know that we're going to be encountering those runners again. This is the traffic control for the run. Here we're going to be going more south than west. This is a branch crossing drive, I believe. This will take us to Taramount, and we end up basically being. I'm trying to clean the gel. The gel has dried on my leg. I'm trying to scrape it off.
Gel leaking from the bottom of the bag.
So I'm telling
I
Paul.
had that last week, man.
He's telling me he had the same problem last week.
I had that last week. It was like underneath the right here. And in here, I was like, man, where did this come from?
Came from the bottom.
Yeah.
I squeezed it and went both ways.
So I roll past Alan here, take the lead, and you know you can see the runners on the opposite side of the road. Go down about probably a kilometer, and then we turn right and go west. We're headed south right now. That's the rest stop. I want to get us through here because we've dealt with these guys enough times to the point where I just wanted us to get on with the ride. I moved over to the right to give Alan some room because we're turning right. That's Taramount Parkway. It's a bit of a grade, it's about 1%. Alan goes back to the front. I slip behind him. There's runners all over. So this is the course. We're actually on the running course here. And we're going directly into the runners. And depending on who they are, they're on the right or the left. So I'm looking ahead, and I use the lane when they're running on the edge. So we're basically riding where they're running in the opposite direction. Since the bicycle is not a vehicle that usually kills people, that's why the officers don't care that we're on the course. They just told us to be careful. So if they were running close to the cone, I would stay to the right. If they were running to the right, I would move to the left. I did that until we got the opportunity to get off this lane. There were times when we would use the opposite side of the road when no car was coming. Like here, you see we're on the shoulder because a bunch of them are coming and they're just spread all over. I told the guys to go across. There's nothing coming. There's quite a few runners. So we're using the opposite side of the road right at this point. There's a bunch of runners coming. We're just making sure we stay out of their way. That's it. That's all there is to it. But we spent more time here watching them and making sure we stayed out of the way, so we're not really focused on riding. We're just kind of rolling right now. So I suggested to Alan at some point, I said, man, we got a shortcut where we can take and find another hill. It's like a bypass that would take us further down this road without having to be dealing with the runners for a bit. So with all the things that we're dealing with, I was surprised we're going as quickly as we are here. I see on the clip, because during the time we were riding, it just seems slow when we're dealing with the runners, because I was keeping my eyes on them. Doing a marathon is not an easy feat. So right here, there's an officer here. He tells us, make sure you stay out of the way, guys. You know, you're not gonna hear him. But I acknowledged him. That's what he's doing right there. That's the officer on the right. So we're just staying on this little shoulder here and giving the runners the lane. The goal was not to do anything that would interrupt their rhythm. So that way, you know, we can be favored like we've been favored to use the course. And there's another rest stop on the right for them. It was very well organized. Everybody's wearing orange, which is just super visible. I think this is where we turn left. Yeah, we take this little horseshoe into another piece of the neighborhood that Paul and I found during the winter. Well, earlier in the winter. It's still winter. I'm explaining to Alan that there's a 3% climb. He expected it to be steeper than it turned out to be. I thought it was only 3%. You feel it more than anything. I told him, I said, we found another climb. He said, oh, that's all I need. You know. But we always explore the little side streets. And sometimes when we come through here, it's just kind of good to know. And so this came in handy today because this bypassed that main road. It dumped us closer to the main intersection. And at that intersection, we went ahead and took a detour. And we didn't have to deal with the marathon again. We headed into Tomball. We're still in the Woodlands. And the marathon is throughout this side of the Woodlands. So had we stayed on Woodland Road, we would have kept encountering the runners. So we went ahead and cut the last piece of the woodland that we usually do and just headed west. You'll see that in a little bit. I think after this curve, the road starts to, I'm watching that grade. I think it's after that island, the traffic island there. You begin to feel the beginnings of the 3% grade. Right now it went from -0 to 0. We're on the climb here. Yeah, it says 1%. Somewhere here at the island, I said, this is the climb. That's what he's saying. He said, I expected it to be worse. I said, nah, it's just 3%. They only registered 2 on the overlay, but it's up to 3%. It doesn't stay there very long. But so it's basically a horseshoe. We turned left, then we went south, and now we headed back west. So we went east, south, and then now we headed west. It's bringing us right back to Terramont Parkway where all the runners are, but further down Terramont Parkway. So it just kind of helped us bypass some of the runners. So we're back on Terramont Parkway here. You can see the runners are still here. We're taking this open left lane. At this point, they opened the lane on the left because this is a double lane boulevard on each side. So we're using the inside lane because it's for cars. Basically other traffic other than the runners. The runners get the right lane. But at the intersection that's coming, we usually go straight, and then we realize we don't have that option. Our only option is to go left or right. So we chose right because Tomball is west of here. And we don't want to go east. That's where we came from. So the officer walks up, and we just let her know we're gonna go, when there's a gap, we're gonna go to the right. And then she makes a joke.
Long gap. They keep coming and coming and coming. Y'all take care of it.
Okay.
She said, what gap? They keep coming and coming and coming. And they're not coming and coming and coming at this point anyway. So that was funny. We told her we're gonna go that way when there's a gap. So by going right, you can see all the cars on the left. They're not allowed to go across right now. I don't know how long they kept them there. But basically traffic is stopped going east. Same as, yeah. So
Already tried to cut a deal, huh?
that was pretty funny. She can see my socks match that band. See the band on Alan's jersey? It's exactly like the sock. That's been a hard color to match because they've got different kinds of orange. You got like reddish orange, this and that. You know, orange is a spectrum in the red color plane, so it's part of that spectrum. Depending on what kind of orange you get, it can look red or more yellow. So the highway up ahead, 1 block over, we're gonna go south, going left. We stay in this lane because there are cars back there. Oh, Alan moved over, I didn't know. I guess he came back, yeah. There are cars behind us, and so I'm waiting until we get close to the intersection to move over. This is the same highway that becomes Fish Creek Thoroughfare when we go to the right, further north of the Woodlands. Today we're taking it down to go to Tomball, where we're going to go over Spring Creek. So we decided to come out because we could not go straight back there because of the runners. And so we just stay on the right of these cars because once we get on the intersection, it's a wide shoulder, so we don't need to sit behind them. We're not going to use the main lane. And right here, I think a little kid in the van starts greeting us, a little girl. And Paul points that out because he starts to laugh, and I'm like, what are you laughing at?
Hi.
You good? What's up, man?
Huh?
You laughing at?
The kid on the back seat just said hi.
Oh.
Look.
So the light changes here, and we're going to be heading south on 2978 is this highway taking us south towards Tomball. I did a bit of editing here because we're just kind of riding per se. It's got a nice shoulder. There are certain parts of it where the shoulder narrows a bit, but it has a shoulder the entire stretch. And it's really pretty boring. I mean, you know, you're just on a highway being passed by. So at this point, there are a couple of guys working. You know, they're doing some kind of utility work. They got a long rope, and I want to make sure we give them enough room. The lanes were clear, so I moved over, let the guys know. Alan looked behind, it's still clear. And I think there is a vehicle here parked on the side of the road. It might be their vehicle, and they've probably just walked up. But we give it plenty of room also. And the shoulder here is pretty wide. Where the bridge is, where the joints are, they're not even. And so I always stand, and I'm letting the guys know. Let the bike bounce over it. And then when we leave the bridge, it's the same thing. They did a poor job of aligning it with the road. And so by doing that, it saves your wheels, it saves your rear end, and you know, you don't have to true your wheels as often. So the wind is primarily a little behind us, but from the left at this point. It's not that much. This is a slight grade over here. It may not register, but it is a grade. As you can see, it's going up. We ride this until we come to the bypass. which takes us a more scenic way further to meet this highway further down the road instead of just staying on this shoulder. Check, the road's clear. We're going to be turning left. There is a car coming from the other direction, but behind us we're clear. So we wait for this car to go and we go right behind him. And this is a nice little bypass. It cuts through a nice subdivision with a beautiful fountain, water fountain, and a turn circle. It's more interesting to use than sitting on that highway. We have several options out here. There's one to the right of where we turn. If we went down a quarter mile, we could use that. That will take us on another back road, which is scenic. So this kind of feels almost like we're climbing right here. The wind has picked up. It's blowing from the east. Alan's asking whether we're going straight because this road that's coming up, there's a road coming up that could take us west to a back highway, but we're not going to do that today. So I told him no, we're just going to go straight. So you see me on the right of Alan because the wind is coming from the left and slightly behind us. Plus that also allows me to see around him. You can see how much Alan moves all over the road. A second ago he was way to the left, now he's on the right. So you always got to be looking for the draft. So I mentioned to Alan that this turn circle wasn't always here, and he said he remembered it. They added it as the area grew, which really beautified it. You can hear the wind whistling. As the morning wore on, it got more intense. Right here, we're just riding two abreast, coming up to the main highway here, back to 2978.
I did this for 3 years, man, in South Dakota.
Before we go over the Spring Creek Bridge.
Yeah, I hated my dad for sending me there. I learned a lot.
That's nice. We'll be like on a farm.
On a farm, yep. I lived in a farm for 3 years.
I need to send my kids, put them on the farm for a month with no electronics. Please don't go crazy. That's what I'm telling you.
I'll tell you one thing, Alan. You won't be remembered. Yeah.
So we hit the highway, and then I look back. It's pretty busy. So I told Alan, let's just stay on this. Even though it's rough, stay on the shoulder and just remain standing so you're not bouncing too much. And then there's a car on the right coming up, act like he didn't want to slow down. So I point at him, and he stops. It's almost like he was going to pull out further. I wanted to make sure he knew we were there. So this is the Spring Creek Bridge that takes us into Tomball. We leave in the Harris County area. I think we're actually going back into Harris County. There should be a sign for the county line. Yeah. Harris County. Like all the bridges, where the joints are, they're uneven. So I'm letting the boys know. Saves your wheels. So we're coming up towards the overpass after the light that's up ahead.
Shoot, if I can get 80 miles today, that's awesome.
So the light changes and we proceed. So we didn't have to stop. That's always good. We just end up riding this hill at a good clip. I think I ended up downshifting to the small chain ring and keeping it probably in the 17 or 19 or something like that. So I sat down the entire time. And I kept my cadence up. At the steepest point, this overpass gets to like 5%. It doesn't show on the overlay, but it shows on the head unit. Yeah, there, I see 4 over there. At the steepest point, it gets there. And you feel it right about here. That's the crest. I use the downhill, spin a little more, help my leg recover. Keeps your legs fresh. Get the lactate out of there by keeping them moving. I let them know there's a car over there so nobody takes a wide turn. The rest of the road's clear. But I still turn in my lane. And now we turn into the wind here. So at this point, I'm thinking about the park that's coming with all those hills in there. I reach for a gel, top off my stores again. We heading west here. This is Huffsmith Kirkendall Road, which will take us to Zion Road. Huffsmith. I'll take a drink because now we're going to be going up a grade and the wind is coming from the right. So we got a cross tailwind somewhat. But the wind from the east is strongest. The one on our left right here is strongest. We never seem to have a perfect tailwind as usual, which is normal for this time of the year. It's always blustery. I turn right on Zion Road and try to settle into some kind of a rhythm here. Our speeds go up a little bit, even though the wind is blustery and this is somewhat of a grade. This part of the road is not that bad. Once we cross the upcoming bridge, that's about probably 200 meters up the road or so. Once we cross this bridge, the road begins to become a false flat. If you look down further ahead, you can see how it just gradually graduates up. And that's what you feel. Right about here is going to level off, and it gets to maybe 0.7, 0.8. Pavement's kind of cracked there. I was just letting them know. You can hear the wind. And I just settled into some kind of tempo here. When you're riding in a small group, you've got to remember to pace yourself. I'm riding at an effort to where not only can I stay there for a long time, if the pace were to change, I can respond to the change in pace. That's the effort I'm putting out right now. And this is zone 4 that I'm in. I look back to make sure nothing else was coming and then kind of move more into the lane. Don't need anybody passing us at the intersection, because they will try. The road continues to drag on, like, it's a false flat and you feel it. So Alan comes to the front right there. And he came in front smoothly enough to where I really didn't need to change my pace much. I was already in the 80s, like 82, 83. And yeah, he just came up with the same pace. I think I'm unzipping my kit a little bit more. I've already removed my hat hours ago. It's in my pocket. About an hour into the ride, I took off the hat. The road is going up here, and it says 1%. You feel it more than anything. And then once we get over this one, at the intersection where that car is, it really stings. I don't know if it gets to 2%, but it's pretty hard. And at that point, Alan accelerates. And I had been pulling for a while, but I dug in. I decided that right here, he accelerates as we go through the stop sign. And I just roll the gear I'm in. Then I start to shift up because the road is going to go downhill. So I shift up in like a 15. And I get it rolling. I don't want to stand. I just want to let my legs do the work. I don't want to get my upper body into it. We put a bit of a gap on Paul, but he's right there. He was just a little surprised. We're doing 51 kilometers. I didn't know we got that. We got to that speed. Okay. It didn't seem that fast to me. You can see I'm soft pedaling quite a bit. I never fell out of the draft. I saw that my heart rate was high up in the upper 170s. It was about 8 beats below my time trial pace. So Alan slows down and I just roll past. There's a stop sign coming down maybe about 75 yards up. So I just roll to it. So even though my heart rate got up there, I wasn't going full gas at any point. So that's why I don't pay too much attention to heart rate. And look how quickly it's dropped. That's what consistent training will do for you. That's what being fit will do for you. You learn to recover quickly and go again. So you know, if I'm pulling and I get in the draft for a bit, that's all the break I need. And that's why you need to be consistent in your training. But you do have to hit the zones that you're going to use. So you can get acclimated. Rolling to Lone Star College into that parking lot. We're taking the back way into the park. It's a little over 2 hours into the ride. Hit the shortcut here. Alan leads the way. And as we go through here, Alan sees a bunch of dogs sitting down the hill there. And he stops. They're sitting over there in the middle of the road. And I decide I'm going to disperse them.
We're going to talk to him.
So I tell them, make way. And then they start moving. Like, bring it up. And then a couple of them try to come back on the road. And Paul's talking to them. And then our favorite lab on the corner here, the brown lab, he's all excited.
What's up, man?
There are dogs across the street all barking. It's like a whole community of dogs.
This is Tomball, man.
It's Tomball, Texas.
Tomball, Texas.
Billy Ray Valentine. Y'all run a respectable business. I won't have to come and isolate y'all. Yeah. That's Eddie Murphy's character from 48 Hours. Billy Ray Valentine. Tomball, Texas. Alan wasn't taking any chances with those dogs. Yeah, you have to be careful because some of them, you don't know them. They run out in the way. Most of them are not very harmful. They just, for some reason, they just like chasing bicycles. Be like catnip for dogs or something. I don't know what it is. Or dog nip. So we start this climb here. I go ahead and just kind of soft pedal so Alan can lead. I'm trying to get conditioned more than really hammer, because we've got a ride coming up in mid-February, which is about 4 weeks away. Let's see, more like 5 weeks. So in a couple of weeks, I'll ramp things up. I'm not in a hurry right now to start pushing too much. So I just ride behind it. I don't downshift much. I keep the gear somewhat heavy. I think I'm in a 53, 21 or a 19, something like that. So when he backs off the power, I just kind of pass and roll through to just keep tempo going. I let them know what's going on before I point. I don't just point. I let them know it's clear. You can't hear it on the camera. You have to vocally communicate with your riding mates. And I put my arm out. That's more for the driver. There's a car back there. He wasn't that close. They catch up pretty quick. So I want him to know we're going straight. So we enter Spring Creek Park. The first hill, when we go down this hill, it comes up. It hits 5% quicker. That's the first loop we do to kind of give you a taste of what's to come. Right about here, I start downshifting. I'm on a big chain ring. I start to downshift. 21, 23. I think I even end up cross-chaining a little bit on this corner because I did not want my cadence to drop. But then we're watching this guy in the truck just crawl around. Speed limit's 20, he might be doing 10. They sightsee while they're driving. Disconnected from everything. So he's just in the way. So we back off. Turn with him here, and then he sees us, and now he goes. And now all these cars that are parked, you always got to watch for parked cars. There's a car that starts creeping out, so I move over to the yellow line. See that? So you always got to be watching when you're passing cars that are parked. You always got to keep your eye on that. I always watch the front tire facing me. So usually the front left if you drive on the right side of the road. So this guy has the right of way he goes. Finally, somebody who knows what to do for a change. So we follow him. He ends up being in the way too, because he's another one that wants to sightsee in the car. And he ends up heading the same place that we're heading at the back of the park. See, I'm rolling my bike. I use my hips to move the bike. I'm avoiding the cracked surfaces of the road. All the uneven parts, I'll avoid them. That saves your wheels. Your ride is more comfortable, all of that. And that 28 on the back, I tell you, I'm just liking it. You know, I almost forget it's a 28. It's just so comfortable. I'm keeping my cadence up because I know what's coming. We're chatting. Because we're going downhill and that guy is up there in his car, we're staying away from him. So we really don't have a lot of pressure on the pedals at this point. don't want to get too close to him.
Oh, okay.
So there's a speed bump over there he's got to watch for. And I take the dirt. And Alan is right behind him, and I decide I need to get up there. And I just walk my bike up to Alan. Boom. Then I realize he's not putting the power down. I just go to the right and keep my same pressure. I'm turning with him, I take an outside line, even though it's not the fastest line, but I keep my line so that he can turn. And we pretty much kind of turn together. So you always have to be aware of that. If you're alongside somebody, you need to hold your line unless you go to the front. This guy finally parks. So since there's no car coming from the other side, I use the same dirt again. It's smoother than that speed bump. I'm holding about 20 miles an hour thereabouts. This is a 2% climb. Alan goes on the left and this car's backing in. And so I slip on his wheel and I realize he's going faster. And I just increase my cadence. Same gear. You can see I'm 104 thereabouts. Staying right around 100. Just use my cadence. So you don't have to worry about shifting. There's no noise. You just accelerate with your hand. And even if you use a small gear and you accelerate and increase your cadence, you build power that way too. Because you're pedaling at a higher cadence than you usually do on the same climb. And if you do that, that's another way of resistance training. Instead of, you can do faster cadence than you've done before with the same effort, or you can do a larger gear at the same cadence. Either way, it strengthens your legs. The faster cadence gives you quick power. And when Alan started to go, he was accelerating. So I used my cadence to close the gap quickly. And you can see where the camera is. Paul is right up there on us. Because we're going hard. This is zone 4 right here. So as we turn, I do what is called pitting. I get on the side of Alan so I'm in his periphery. So he knows I'm there. Because I stand up because I'm ready, because he usually accelerates out of the park. And I was ready to kick it, but he didn't. So I just kind of roll the gear I was in. You can see I'm slowing down just a tad as we leave. So we left the park at a lower pace, because a lot of times Alan will accelerate out of the park. And so I stood up so I would just kick the gear I was in, because it felt pretty light. This is our stop at the Phillips 66.
Just leave it on. Yeah, leave it on.
That's the SIS gel that dried on my lip
Good morning.
and it spilled.
Yeah, man.
Here, Sean, I got you on YouTube, man. Fellas, that's Sean.
That's good.
Yeah.
Which flavor you like?
The white one, Frost or whatever. Yeah, that one on the left is good. That one right there.
This?
Yeah, that's good. It doesn't stain the bottle. Some of those dyes, man. That food coloring to put in there. Get some ice. Put some ice in the bottle, eh?
So basically here we're sitting, and I even used this opportunity to tighten up a loose cleat. I had a loose cleat on one side of one of my shoes, and so I used that opportunity there while we're talking. I tightened it, and then we had different people that would come by to chat with us. In a little bit, there's a guy that pulls up in a truck. He goes in, he gets stuff, and then he comes back out. It turns out that he's somebody that used to cycle the white truck. He goes in the store, he speaks to us, he buys gas, he's at the pump right now. He goes to his truck, he takes care of that, he goes back in the store, he pays. Then he comes out, he stands there, and he chats with us. And he's telling us that he used to ride Centuries and he used to live in New Orleans. So it was just really cool. It's funny how you meet people.
10:14 right now.
How many extra miles?
Oh, 10-14.
Yeah.
I would say maybe 7 miles or 8 miles, and not that much.
We got headwind.
Yeah.
Whatever you guys want.
I'm curious. 10-14. Let's go the long way. I think it will be quieter. It will be better.
We decided to use the outskirts of the Tomball route instead of going through the city directly. And yes, Alan was right. We are fighting the wind, but it is quieter using this route. So at this point in the ride, we're heading towards 2920. I take the lead here on this corner. We're headed north into the wind, and the wind is coming from the right as well. It seems to be stronger from the right. So we've got a cross headwind. And I'm settling into a rhythm here to just get us onto 2920. I'm staying to the right because the wind is mostly coming from the right and in our face, so that gives the guys following, they can stay a little to my left if they want to. I did a lot of editing here because we were riding for quite some time, and this just kind of moved the video along. I kept a lot of the footage in the woodlands so that you guys would experience the marathoners that we ran into today. We can hear the wind. That's pretty much what we heard. We only chatted on this ride when we would stop. Because during the ride with the wind, you couldn't hear people there. We're approaching 2920 up ahead. It's a bit of an incline, and then we turn right. It's a short little bump. So we're heading east directly into the stiffest wind out there because the wind is now in our face, very heavy, and from the left. North is to the left. And the east wind is blowing really hard. Hit this light. As soon as we got there, it changed. We had already kind of slowed down, so I stood up to get my gear rolling. Probably riding 53.19 or something like that. Because we're going into the wind. Yeah, 19 I think is what I mean. We're going into the wind, so I'm keeping my cadence in the 80s, 75 to 90. I'm treating it like a hill climb. And that's what you do into the wind. You can use the wind to work on climbing. And that's what we have an abundance of down here. And that will prepare you to do rides that have climbs. Since it's just the two of us pulling right now, I'm making sure that I keep my effort under control so that when Alan's done, I can come back to the front and help the group along because we're going to be riding this wind well until the end of the ride. So I basically stay in the draft. I'm very close to him. You can see that. I make sure that I maximize the use of the draft. So as we go through the intersection here, I point out stuff for Paul. There's that concrete is always there. We don't want to roll over. It's uncomfortable. So make sure that he is aware of that. And you can see how I'm staying directly behind Alan or a little to the right because the wind is mostly from in front. And then we got a slight one from the left. Since it's mostly headwind, that's why I'm primarily behind him instead of off to one side. I'm just holding my position to make sure Paul's able to track in his draft because the wind's blowing to the point where if Alan moves, he comes back to the wide line. The ideal spot for him is where he is now, but he drifts. So I just hold my position. I don't follow when he moves. I am not overlapping because I don't need to since the wind is mostly from the front. I reach for a gel here to just make sure I'm topped off. It's the best time to do it when you're not at the front pulling. There's nothing wrong with doing it when you're at the front, but if you remember while you're in the draft, it's better to do it there because I'm kind of rolling because I'm in the draft. I can roll with a comfortable cadence. So I'm not really working that hard right now. And that one did not leak, so I could just slip it under my jersey. The first tube I used had leaked, and I didn't know it had dried on my lip until we stopped at the store and Paul pointed it out. And I saw it on the clip here when I was editing. But if you watch my body language, you can tell I'm just kind of coasting along. That's the benefit of the draft. It's not easy, but I'm not exactly killing myself. I'm at the bottom of zone 4 in the draft. So Alan pulls to the right. He's done pulling, so I roll through. I point to that truck to let him know we're coming through. You can't see my hand, but I did. I always do that. I make sure I get their attention. If I don't get their attention, then I back off or move out into the lane. Basically getting ready to take evasive action. At this point when I'm pulling, as I remember, is that I got into a very good rhythm. We end up catching a light of maybe about 3 or 4 kilometers down. And I really did not want to catch that light. I did not want to stop. I even told the boys I don't want to stop. Right here, I really like the rhythm I have going. And the key is that if you're riding into the wind, if you watch me, I'm not thinking about the wind. What I'm focused on is making sure I'm in a gear I can handle. Because besides the wind, right here after this bridge, the road becomes a grade. As we go through this intersection, it's a grade. And so I want to make sure I don't get bogged down. I don't believe I had to shift. I just pushed a little harder on the pedals. And when you're fitted right and you practice, you should be able to do that without people telling you that you're doing that. You can see I slightly pulled out of camera range and then Paul rode back up. My cadence went down a few revolutions per minute, but I'm self-pedaling because I don't want to stop. And I told them that, so I don't want to stop. I'm hoping that by the time we get there, the light would have already changed. It didn't change until we got there. As soon as we got there, after I stopped, then it changed. See that? So I had pretty much stopped almost completely. I think I unclipped and everything. So Alan took off. Alan had been freewheeling and I don't think he unclipped. And I get my gear rolling. And shortly here I come by. I check for traffic and then I use the main lanes and come around Paul and Alan. Because Paul is behind Alan right here. Right there I used the main lanes. Alan was drifting towards me, he moved back. And I just went back through to resume my pull. I picked up the pace to come by Alan. That's why you see 34 kilometers an hour. And once I get up there, I let up a bit. You always have to keep a little extra. You don't want to be pulling at your max. That's the key. And you hear the wind. The conditions are very tough. I move behind this truck as he's turning right. I wave the guys over so we can just use the main lanes and follow him. And he can turn freely. And right here, Alan accelerates, and I'm on him. I kick it up, and I'm right on him. You see my cadence. I hit the century mark immediately. That's why you have to practice different cadences. It gives you the versatility. So you can see my cadence is back to 70 something because Alan's backed off the power. In the same gear that I was spinning at 100 RPM a little while ago. That's the way you have to be able to ride. You should be able to take that gear from 75 to 110 if you need to. Because back in the day when we had down tube shifters, we didn't do too much shifting. We just found a gear that we could handle and stayed in it. Unless the terrain changed dramatically, we didn't shift a whole lot. And that's the way you should be riding most times. Unless you're doing a lot of rollers, you don't need to do too much shifting. I usually train in harder gears than I ride in this group ride. So the gears I use in the group ride, they're less as far as gear inches are concerned than what I do my workouts in solo. That's the way you have to train. You have to train a little harder than you think you're going to need in whatever you doing, what event or group ride you're doing. It comes over time. So even though we're doing 37 kilometers an hour into the wind, whatever gear I'm in, I know I can handle it. I'm not way down the cluster. I'm probably in a 19 or a 17. We stop over here. This is a new light they added. It's been there for a while. They activated it recently. I sped it up here to kind of get us through this light. So I'll go ahead and roll through the light. Alan had been there for a while. And this is pretty much wrapping up the ride. So I hope you guys and girls got a chance to get out there over the weekend and get some kilometers in your legs. If not, make a date with your bike. Get out there. I let that car know I'm going to use the main lane. I hate that chewed up pavement over there. Alan comes back to the front to take a pull. I slip in behind him. And in about probably 100 yards or so, we're going to be turning right. So this is what we did on Saturday. I hope that you all got a chance to get out there. If you didn't, get out, get some K's in your legs, keep your body moving, fire those doctors.